let us try to know about the most important aspect of the GST, that is registration. What is registration? Why do you think registration is important? As we all know, registration is the most fundamental requirement for identification of taxpayers who are ensuring tax compliance in the economy. Without registration, in GST, a person can neither collect the tax from his customers nor can he claim any input tax credit. So, registration of all business entities under the GST law implies that they obtain a unique number from the concerned authorities. But registration is determined on the basis of certain aspects. We will try to understand one after the other. First basic principle for registration process is what we call it as threshold limit. Friends, threshold limit is that limit which gives us a maximum amount in terms of our aggregate turnover. It varies from state to state. Majority of the states have fixed their threshold limit for registration as 40 lakhs. Like for example, if you take the state of Tamil Nadu, Maharashtra, they have kept their threshold limit as 40 lakhs. But whereas Kerala and Telangana have kept their threshold limit as 20 lakhs of rupees. Now, what is this threshold limit got to do with registration? I am a dealer residing in the state of Telangana. The moment my aggregate turnover exceeds 20 lakhs of rupees, I have to register under GST. That means till my aggregate turnover is 19 lakhs 99,000, I don't have to register myself. But then the moment it crosses 20 lakhs, because the threshold limit for the state of Telangana is 20 lakhs, as my aggregate turnover is exceeding 20 lakhs, I have to register. And when we are talking about special category states such as Puducherry, Meghalaya, Mizoram, Tripura, Manipur, Sikkim, Nagaland, Arunachal Pradesh, Uttarakhand, the threshold limit is same as in the case of our state, that is 20 lakhs of rupees. Now, when you are intending to supply both goods and services, the threshold limit is 20 lakhs of rupees, excepting in the states of Manipur, Mizoram, Nagaland and Tripura, where it is only 10 lakhs. Friends, stop for a while and just underline or understand this point. When you are supplying both goods and services, the threshold limit is 20 lakhs of rupees all over the country, excepting for the states of Manipur, Mizoram, Nagaland and Tripura, where your threshold limit is 10 lakhs of rupees. Now, what do you mean by aggregate turnover? How do we understand this aggregate turnover? Aggregate turnover for the purposes of GST includes all taxable supplies and even all exempted supplies. And then if you are exporting goods or services or both, even that also forms part of your aggregate turnover. But then it does not include the taxes that we pay, that is central taxes, state taxes, union territory taxes or integrated taxes, and also it does not include all those values of the inward supplies on which taxes are payable on the reverse charge basis. Now, having understood the concept of threshold limit, we will try to look into some situations or cases where the dealers are required to register compulsorily as per the provisions of GST Act. Who are they? Let us say if you are already a registered dealer by virtue of the other acts, the moment the GST Act has been implemented, as per the Act, you are required to register yourself if you are fulfilling the prescribed conditions. Then, if you are a carrier of a business, being a taxable person registered under GST Act, but you are transferring your business on account of succession or even otherwise to your successor, then or even to an outside person also, in both these cases the persons who are actually taking the business from the predecessor, they are required to register compulsorily. Then we also have the list of those persons who are not required to register. Who are they? If you are a person dealing exclusively in exempt supplies, you are not required to seek registration. What do you mean by exempt supplies? These are those supplies on which you don't have to pay any taxes. So, if you are exclusively dealing with exempt supplies, then you are not required to seek registration. Similarly, you are also a person who is engaged in the supply of agricultural produce, where you are cultivating the land yourself or your family members are cultivating the land, or under their supervision or your supervision, the land is being cultivated by the hired laborers, then you are not required to seek any kind of registration. Then if you are actually person making supplies under a reverse charge. So, if you are engaged in taxable supplies of goods or services or both, on which the tax has to be paid by the recipient under reverse charge. Now, having seen the cases where people are not required to seek registration, we will try to look into those cases or situations where registration is compulsory. Now, what are those situations? Any person who is making interstate supplies, remember, any person who is making interstate supplies, it is compulsory for such person to register himself as per the provisions of GST Act. Then you are a casual taxable person making taxable supply. Friends, remember, you might be doing the trade casually, but you are not a casual person for the purposes of GST. You have to register even though you are casually, you're trading. You don't have any fixed place of business, but then you are making a trade or a transaction in a place where GST is applicable, then you have to seek registration. Then if you are making supplies to those persons for whom reverse charge is applicable, then you are an e-commerce operator. All the e-commerce operators, they have to register themselves under the GST Act. Then you are a non-taxable person, but you are making a taxable supply. You are also, you are non-resident taxable person, but you are making a supply. You understand this. You have your famous personalities or celebrities who are located outside India. For your easy understanding and connection, shall we take the example of Priyanka Chopra and Nick Jonas? Let us say Nick Jonas is invited to be a guest or to be a judge for a program, like Indian Idol or so. You are inviting Nick Jonas and you are paying him 1 crore of rupees as the fees. Now, who is Nick Jonas? He is a non-resident person. But now he is making a taxable supply of 1 crore. Because he is making a taxable supply, even though he is a non-resident, he is now required to register himself. Then any deductor of taxes at source or any collector of taxes at source, let that be a central government or a state government or a local authority or such other person who is notified by the central government, even the moment you are responsible for deduction of taxes at source or collection of taxes at source, you have to register yourself. Then if any person is making a supply in the capacity of an agent representing a principal, then you also have to seek registration. Then all input service distributors, you are input service distributor, you are managing all the invoices that are related to your particular establishment, then you are the one who are actually allotting the credits also to various departments, etc. Then you are also required, being an input service distributor, to register as per the provisions of GST. Then if you are a person making supplies through an e-commerce operator, or you are an e-commerce operator but responsible or liable to deduct taxes at source or collect taxes at source, then you also have to register. Then all those persons who are supplying online information and database access or retrieval services, then you are also liable for registration. Apart from all these people, any other person who is so notified by the government have to seek registration. Now, having seen the people who are required to register, people who are not required to register, or people who are compulsorily required to register, now we will try to understand the registration process. Friends, I might fall under any of these categories, but the moment I am required to register, let us say by virtue of my threshold limit in the state of Telangana, my threshold limit, my aggregate turnover is exceeding 20 lakhs today, then today is, what is today's date? From today, within 30 days, I have to apply for registration. Then I am a casual dealer or I am a non-resident taxable dealer. Then 5 days from the date of making such transaction, I have to seek registration. Now, what is the registration process? As discussed in lesson 1, all of us, we only have one way to go. We have to get in with the GST network, log on to the prescribed website, and then we have to register ourselves as per the procedure laid down. But remember, before you sit with the registration process, keep certain documents ready with yourself. What are they? Your PAN, your mobile number, your email ID, and then all those documents that are related to your business, starting with the place of establishment to the signatory of your business. In case of a company or a partnership firm, you have to have all these documents ready with you before you are starting the registration process. Now, online registration process, the person is required to log on to the prescribed website, and then you have to fulfill all the prescribed formalities. What are those prescribed formalities? The registration process is done in part 1 and part 2, or form A and form B. Form A collects the basic information about who you are, and that is where in the online registration process I am required to select I am field as a taxpayer. Then I am required to select the state, the district, then my place of business, etc. Then I have to give my email ID and also mobile number. Friends, we should be careful here while giving the details with regard to mail IDs and the mobile numbers. Give those which are functional, because from now onwards, that is starting from the registration process, all the correspondence will take place between the portal and you with the help of this media only. That is, all the necessary information will be sent to you by way of an email or a text message to your registered mobile number. So, see to it that they both are functional. Now, after this basic data is given in part A, then what happens is I'll have to get into part B, and there the temporary reference number will be generated when I am seeking the new registration. Now, what is this temporary reference number? I was telling you to give the email ID or the mobile numbers which are functional only. When this process is going on, the TRN will be sent to your mobile. Then you have to give the temporary reference number. See how beautifully the words are coined. What is this number? It is reference number. Is this permanently given to you? No, it is temporary reference number. Till you get your registration number, this number will be actually a kind of an identity with which you can transact or you can actually interact with the GST authorities online. Then I also have to catch the captcha code. Now, when I am registering for GST purposes, now I have to seek a registration separately if I am a owner of a special economic zone, or I am a developer of such unit, or I am an input service distributor, or I am a deductor of taxes at source or collector of taxes at source, or when I am supplying online information and database access or retrieval services. In these cases, I will have to actually give the separate applications. Then after these formalities have been met, I will be receiving an acknowledgement. This is GST registration O2. Friends, it's a beautiful journey. All are consecutively numbered. O1 or 01 is when you are making the application. O2 is the acknowledgement that is sent to you, okay, with your reference number. As soon as you make this application, you will be getting an acknowledgement online. The beauty is, from this date, within 3 working days, the entire process of registration has to be closed by the proper officer. There is no element of time lag or time delay. That is, what is this 3 days for? When they have to actually go through the documents that they have given and they're satisfied that everything is correct, everything is found correct, then they'll have to give you a registration number within 3 working days. Here at this juncture, if the proper officer thinks that the data is insufficient, or you have not furnished all the required information, or there are certain defects in the form of application that you have made, then they can give you a notice in GST Reg 03. So, what is the 03? 01 is when you are making an application, 02 is your acknowledgement, 03 when you receive, mind you, there is a query from the proper officer, which you have time to address these queries. That is 7 days windows is given to you. Within 7 days from the date of receipt of this notice, you have to answer back to the proper officer. Now, when I am giving my answers, friends, I will have to furnish my replies in GST Reg 4 within 7 days from the receipt of the original notice. Now, again, when I am giving the clarification, the proper officer is satisfied that the clarification given by the applicant are genuine and he is satisfied with all the answers that I am giving him, within 7 working days from that day, he has to sanction me my registration. So, remember, 7-day window remains the same. So, within 7 days, he has to sanction me the registration. But if proper officer is not satisfied with the clarification that is provided by me, he can reject my application through GST Reg 5. So, if I am getting 05, that means my application has been rejected. But here also, law is very beautifully thinking about our problems, and they have incorporated one provision. What the law says, if proper officer fails to give you the answer or fails to take any action within 3 days from the date of application, that is when you are making the application, or if you are receiving any query, you have to answer him within 7 days. So, within 7 days you have answered the proper officer, but then he is not responding, nothing is told, no information is being passed on to you. Remember, if you are not receiving any notice from the proper officer informing you that your application is rejected, for all practical purposes, the application for registration is deemed to have been approved. You could get this. So, if I fail to get any communication from the proper officer within the 3 days period, or if I am getting any notice within 7 days I am answering and I am not getting any reply, then the entire program is closed, the registration is deemed to have been completed. Then application for the grant of registration has been approved. The registration certificate will be sent to me in GST Reg 06, which will be made available in the common portal. Then all the relevant details we will have to file. I was discussing with you in those the fields which you find on the portal, and then you should be ready with all the documents. And when you are filling this form online, you also should visit the verification page. That is, you have to either electronic verification code you have to furnish, or you have to actually make an e-sign, or a digital signature is compulsorily required in case of corporate SCs. But entire procedure, if it is completed, you will be getting the registration certificate within the date, that is the date given by the Act. Then your GSTIN, that is Goods and Services Taxpayer Identification Number. Look into this name, Goods and Services Taxpayer Identification Number. During pre-GST regime, I used to have a VAT number, I used to have a service tax identification number. Now, whatever were the taxes I was paying, I used to have a separate number for each and every of those taxes I was paying. But now it is a unified tax structure, and I will only have one identification number, that is my Goods and Services Taxpayer Identification Number. Friends, here we are only referring to indirect taxes. My PAN holds good for my income tax and direct taxes purposes, but here PAN only is the basis for GSTIN also. GSTIN consists of 15 digits, and then it has got alphanumeric characters. Now, within this 15 digits, first 2 digits is very, very important. It is the respective state code. So, you are in a particular state, whatever is the state code for that state, that will be the first 2 digits. Following, next 10 digits is your PAN number. So, PAN consists of 10 alphanumeric characters. So, 10 plus 2, 12 is taken care of. Remaining 3 digits of your GSTIN, the number stands for your entity code, then there is one default alphabet, and there is a checksum digit. So, this will be generated by the portal, and it will be given to you, and it will be intimated to you accordingly. Then we have seen under the Act who are all responsible to register and who are all not required, etc. We will also now look into the other related aspects of registration. Now, what if a person is not under any obligation to make a registration, or his threshold limit also is not exceeding the aggregate turnover, but still he has interest to register himself? Does the Act deny his interest? No. Such a person can apply for registration voluntarily. But friends, till this point of time, I have an option to register or not, because my aggregate turnover is not crossing the threshold limit, neither I am under any obligation as per the provisions of GST Act to seek registration, but I am seeking. The moment I am seeking, all those provisions fall upon me also, then I have to fulfill all the prescribed criterion. In some cases, there is also this concept of suo motu registration. What is suo motu registration? If proper officer, after a survey, after making an inquiry, after inspecting your books, or after such, he feels that you are liable for registration, then he temporarily can grant you registration by issuing a temporary reference number in form GST registration 12. Then, after you receive any such number from the proper officer, you will have a time of 90 days. Within 90 days, you have to apply for registration as per the same procedure which we have seen. Then, okay, let us understand that registration formalities have been fulfilled. I also got my registration number. I find some data is missing, or there is a need for some changes. Amendments are required. Is it possible for me to seek amendments? Yes, there is a possibility. So, after the registration, if registered person thinks that there is a need for any change of details which were submitted by him at the time of registration, he can apply for amendment within 15 days, okay, by way of an application in GST Reg 14, electronically only, seeking the required change. Now, what kind of change is possible? If there is a change in the legal name of the business, there is a change in the address of the principal place of business or any additional places of business, or there is an addition or deletion or retirement of partners. Now, in these cases, I can ask for a change or amendment to the registration. Now, what is the process? I have to actually make an application as seen before. Then if the proper officer is satisfied, he can electronically issue the amendment order in GST Reg 15. Then in case the proper officer is of the opinion that such amendment is not required or it is unwarranted for, then he may serve you with a notice within 15 days from the receipt of GST Reg 03 from you, that is asking for the amendments. Friends, remember, when you receive this notice, again within 7 days, you have to answer the queries of the proper officer in GST Reg 04. Now, proper officer, after going through your reply, can either reject or accept for the amendment. Then here, if there is no communication received from the proper officer within the specified time as per the GST Act, then the application for amendment is deemed to have been approved and the amendment certificate will be made available on the GST portal. So, what did we understand? Let it be your registration or amendment for registration, time is specified. It is the responsibility of the proper officer to act within this time frame. If he is deviating, if he is not responding, if he is not communicating to you, no heavens are going to fall. You are deemed to be sanctioned this registration because proper officer is failing to give you a response within the time frame. So, but if in case there is a change of PAN of the registered person due to a change in the constitution of business, friends, you have to seek a fresh registration only. Amendment is not possible. Now, having learnt all these things, let us try to look into two more aspects. Is cancellation of registration possible? Yes, registration can be cancelled by the registered person himself. He can make an application, or by the GST officer himself by his own this thing, or if he is receiving an application from the registered person seeking such cancellation, or the legal heads of the registered dealer in the event of the death of the registered dealer, if asking for cancellation, then such registration can be cancelled. Now, a person himself can cancel the registration if, or ask for the cancellation of registration if the business is being discontinued, or the business is sold or transferred to some other party, or that other party needs to register under GST, or there is any change in the constitution of the business, like in case of partnership firm, etc., then the registration can be sought for cancellation. Or any taxable person who is not a person with voluntary registration but is not required for registration as per the prescribed sections, he can also ask for cancellation. Now, the GST officer or the officer who is in charge can cancel the registration of a person or a business in the following cases. What are those cases? If the registered person has violated any of the GST provisions or laws, or a composition registered person has not filed his tax returns for 3 consecutive quarters, or a normal registered person has not filed his returns consecutively for 6 months, or a voluntary registered person has not commenced the business within the 6 months period from the date of registration, or registration is obtained by a fraudulent method or by way of concealment of facts or willful misstatements. Friends, what did you understand? A person, a registered person, has a chance to seek cancellation of registration, okay, and there can be sometimes an application from his legal aids or sometimes by the officer himself, but these are those cases where the officer, that is the person in charge, for the GST aspects, himself is cancelling the registration because there has been certain violations or defaults. Always remember, violation of law is inexcusable. Similarly, if there is any concealment of facts or willfully you are misstating, that means you are not giving correct information and you are furnishing this with a fraudulent information, intentions. That is the reason why your registration will be cancelled by the GST officer himself. Now, if you are voluntarily seeking for cancellation, you can make an application in GST REG 16 where your registration can be cancelled, but you can only ask after 1 year of the registration. But then if proper officer is sending you any show cause notice, then that will be sent to you in GST REG 17. If you are a concerned person, you have to reply back within 7 days. That should take place with GST REG 18. If proper officer is issuing a formal order for cancellation of registration, then such order should be sent to you within 30 days. That has to be sent to you in GST REG 19. If the proper officer is satisfied with your explanation, he can use the form 20 to drop the cancellation proceedings and pass a formal order. Friends, so what did we understand? Registration is something that is required to be done sometimes by the registered person, sometimes under obligation of the law to seek the registration, and there is also this threshold limit. So all of us, if we fall under these provisions, if I am having an aggregate turnover exceeding the threshold limit, or I am obligated by law to make or to apply for registration, then I have to seek registration, and I only have to make an online registration visiting the GST portal, and all the formalities I have to make good. And then again, remember the important point, give your correct details, give your correct information, and give only those email IDs and your mobile numbers which are functional, because all further correspondence will happen only through this. Thank you.